The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Representative Gonzalez. Mr. Schiebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Armagost, Bacon, AML Bacon,
Excused.
Barone, Byrd, Basenecker, Speaker Pro Tem Basenecker,
Excused.
Bottoms, Bradfield, Bradley, Brooks, Brown, Caldwell, Camacho, Carter, Clifford. Representative DeGraff is excused. Duran. Majority Leader Duran.
Excused.
English. Representative English.
Excused.
Espinoza. Ferre. Froelich. Representative Froelich.
Excused. Oh, there they
Garcia.
are.
Garcia Sander. Gilchrist. Gonzalez. Hamrick. Hartsook. Jackson. Johnson. Joseph. Kelty. Leader. Lindsay. Lindstead. Luck. Lukens. Mabry. Marshall. Martinez. Morrow. McCormick. Pascal. Phillips. Puglisi. Minority Leader Puglisi.
Excused.
Richardson. Ricks. Representative Ricks.
Excused.
Rutinell. Ryden. Sirota. Smith. Soper. Representative Soper.
Excused. Oh,
Stewart K. Stewart R. Story. Sukla. Taggart. Titone. Valdez A. Velasco. Weinberg. Wilford. Winter. Woodrow. Woog. Zokai. And Madam Speaker.
here. With 60 present, 5 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, members. Madam Speaker, I move that the Journal of Monday, March 17, 2025 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk, and I hope all of my colleagues have a terrific Tuesday.
Aww. Members, you have heard the motion and the kind good morning from Representative Gonzalez that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Madam Members, we are proceeding to business. I invite you to take your seats. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 11.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 25011.
Senate Joint Resolution 11 by Senators Gonzalez and Rodriguez, also Representative Velasco, concerning the recognition of Latino and Latina Advocacy Day 2025.
Representative Velasco.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Resolution 011 and ask for it to be read at length.
That is Senate Joint Resolution 11, and Mr. Shebel, please read our resolution.
Whereas Latino and Latina Advocacy Day celebrates 19 years of mobilizing Latinas and Latinos from across Colorado, an annual event that has helped amplify more than 5,400 Latina and Latino voices to address the structural inequities that have historically affected the Latina and Latino community. And whereas in 2006, following the passage of anti-immigrant federal legislation and an anti-immigrant special legislative session in Colorado, a pro-immigrant justice movement swept the nation, including in Colorado. Community organizations led by local Latina and Latino activists convened the first ever Latino-Latina Advocacy Day in Denver in 2007 to hold policymakers accountable, advocate for better public policies, and grow the Latina and Latino community's power and influence inside the state capitol. And whereas in 2025, Latinas and Latinos in Colorado again find themselves at the intersection of anti-immigrant attacks from the federal government, including indiscriminate mass deportations violently separating Colorado immigrant families, as well as attempts to bring back 2006-era anti-immigrant legislation during this legislative session. And whereas Latinas and Latinos constitute the largest non-white demographic group in Colorado at 22.7% of the population. And whereas Latinas and Latinos remain among the most impacted people when assessing the adverse outcomes of inequitable healthcare, housing, education, and economic opportunity. And whereas involving Latinas and Latinos in the policymaking process ensures that the voices and lived experiences of all Coloradans are respected and honored. And whereas community efforts like Latino Advocacy Day help create better policies that impact the daily lives of all people in our state. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the Colorado General Assembly, recognize the achievements of Latinas and Latinos and honor their contributions to Colorado's long history of political engagement and their role in the policymaking process. That we pay tribute to past and current Latino and Latina Advocacy Day participants who have traveled to the Colorado State Capitol from across Colorado to ensure representation and the just treatment of Latino communities in Colorado. And that we devote ourselves to creating a Colorado that will one day work for all, regardless of immigration status, in the Colorado General Assembly.
Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
And it is also an honor to stand here with my colleagues as we honor Latino Advocacy Day. I am feeling a lot because last night, in the middle of the night, a woman, a mother of 3, who's committed no crime except for wanting to build a better life for her family, was detained and is on expedited deportation because she stands up for her communities here in Denver. Latino Advocacy Day started because of the unlawful and inhumane actions against immigrants. And I have been part of LAD for 17 years. In 2008, Dolores Huerta came and marched with us, fighting for humanity and dignity. Yesterday, she was here marching with us, still fighting for humanity and dignity. We have LAD because historically, buildings like this have not been open to Black and brown people. So we created a day to say you are welcome. You are welcome in the People's House. And when they come to their house, they speak to some of you. They share their voices with some of you who will listen. and many of us who do show up and listen to what our communities have to say, thank you. Latino Advocacy Day is a day when our communities have the courage to show up, and what do they get? They get deported. I am ashamed today. Utterly ashamed.
Representative Velasco.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Garcia, for your words. This whole weekend, we had over 400 community members that came from all over the state to get together and learn about what it means to be an activist, what it means to be an advocate, what it means to share and elevate your voice for your communities. And as someone who came with that background to the legislature, I can tell you that to me, it just means caring about each other. It just means taking care of our neighbors and friends and community members and standing together and advocating for a better life for all. So it was an honor to have them show up here at the Capitol, marching together with Dolores Huerta, elevating their voices and talking to members here in the legislature to advocate for the things that we all care about, like access to dignified housing, access to clean air and clean water for all, workers' rights, and also asking for strengthening protections for our migrant communities. So I really appreciate all of y'all that had the opportunity to talk to them, but really appreciated them, community members showing up here in the Capitol, especially when for people outside of the Denver area, it's so hard to make it here. We have to travel. Bell Pass was closed. It takes us hours on the road. So we feel is an added barrier to be able to get our voices heard. So really appreciate all the community members that came yesterday advocating for civil rights and human rights that we all have. So thank you, members.
Representative Barone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to start off with, for obvious reasons, I have to explain myself on why I can't be a part of this resolution. In my opinion, and I got permission from the people my colleagues standing behind me to speak, that this language is divisive. It is divisive and it does not apply to all Latinos, including myself. I presented an alternate resolution to the sponsors last week that I believe was more empowering and included all of us. These problems are problems, but they're not problems that all Latinos face, and that we truly think that because we put our mind to it, we can do what we want to do. I'm an example. Other Latinos that are in this chamber on both sides of the aisle are examples that we are not victims. We are not at the foot of the government. We should not be relying on the government. We can do it ourselves. We have done it ourselves. And I can speak to a lot of Latinos in my district that work hard and they put their mind to it, they get it done. I'd like some time to speak to some of my constituents and people listening on TV, that el dicho dice que así se puede. Si ponemos nuestra mente en hacer lo que queremos hacer, se puede. Y se ha hecho. Yo soy el ejemplo. Se ha hecho. Yo también tengo palabra aquí. I also have word here. This language is divisive and I am against it. We should be more inclusive. We're all equal in this chamber. We're all equal. And in the state, we're all equal as well. Not just because we're Latinos or we're black or we're Asian or we're whatever. We're all equal. We could all do the same thing. We have so much opportunity in this country. I have not heard of anybody in my district, at least, that have been turned away from doing what they want to do. We can do it. There's so many companies starting in northern Colorado, my district especially, that are Latino-owned because they put their mind to it. They work hard. They pay their taxes. Immigration is the law. There is laws in this country we have to follow. I believe in that. But I also disagree with the immigration process. There is some faults to it, which I intend to push forward. I intend to push forward a more streamlined process to become a permanent resident or a citizen. Right now, the process is broken. I believe that. I honor that. To be kicked out of the country, depending on how long you've been here, as a castigo, they call it, for 5 to 10 years, it's pushing people away from trying to become citizens. It's pushing people away from trying to become residents. We need to fix that. A more streamlined process. We need to get people to be able to want to be part of this country. Well, they do want to be part of this country, but make it easier for them. That's what I want. It's nothing very hard to do. We could push for that. We don't have to push this divisive language. We're not victims. No somos víctimas. That being said, I would like to move amendment L001 to SJR011 and have it properly displayed, please.
One moment. The amendment is properly displayed. Please proceed, Representative Barone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the alternate version I presented to the sponsors last week. I believe this language is inclusive. I believe this language empowers the Latin community. Doesn't divide us, it keeps us at an equal plane. This is something I would stand behind. This is pretty much 60 to 80% of the original resolution with the divisive language taken out and including empowering language. This is something all of us can get behind, knowing that there is a problem in the immigration process, but it can be fixed. It doesn't have to be a divisive thing. We are not victims. Latinos are not victims. We shouldn't be seen that way. The original resolution portrays that as victims. And I urge an aye vote.
Representative Velasco.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much to Representative Barone for your words. And we are going to ask for a no on this amendment. We really appreciate your efforts, and also would like to elevate that community members who showed up yesterday, they were talking to their representatives and senators from across the aisle, from Democrats and Republicans, because they wanted them to listen to them and elevate their issues and explain and share their experiences. So I appreciate your words, but we also know that our state has a history of being anti-migrant, of putting us in a different category, of being seen as less as. So we ask for a no on this amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of L001 to Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Morrow is excused. Please close the machine. With 24 aye, 38 no, and 3 excused, the amendment is lost. The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Please close the machine. With 42 aye, 20 no, and 3 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 11 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Ricks, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Members, before we proceed on to business for the day, we are going to move announcements ahead of second readings. My announcement today, Representatives Sirota, Byrd, and Taggart will be excused at such time as needed so that JBC can meet today. Representative Tatone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, JTC will be meeting at room 357 upstairs. We're going to hear from SIPA and do some other business, 8 o'clock.
Thank you. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Boy, this is even tall for me. Today, Health and Human Services will meet upon adjournment in room 10, let's say 15 minutes upon adjournment in room 112. We will hear 1259 for action only, followed by 78 and 1288. See you there.
Thank you. Representative McCormick. No? Assistant Minority Leader Winter. The two of you. Together. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to announce to everyone that today is Agriculture Day, Ag Day at the Capitol. And in the West Foyer today, starting at 1 o'clock, we have a lunch or second lunch hosted by the Colorado Ag Council. And I'm happy to announce that the CSU Meat Lab is providing pork, beef, and lamb for us to enjoy. So before committee, stop by the West Foyer and get a taste of what they have to share with us.
Thank you. Assistant Minority Leader Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this became a tradition. My first year here, I had a constituent ask that I do this on Agricultural Day every year, and I want to thank leadership for allowing me to take a minute to do this. And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. I need somebody with arms strong enough to rustle a calf and yet gentle enough to deliver his own grandchild. Somebody to call hogs, take Cactaceous machinery, come home hungry, have to wait for lunch until his wife's done feeding visiting ladies, then tell the ladies to be sure and come back real soon and mean it. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say, maybe next year. I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make a harness out of hay wire, feed sacks, and shoe scraps, who planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then paying in from tractor back, put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer. God had to have somebody willing to ride the ruts at double speed to get the hay in ahead of the rain clouds, and yet stop in midfield and race to help when he sees the first smoke from a neighbor's place. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to tame lambs and wean pigs and tend to pink-comb pullets, who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. It had to be somebody who'd plow deep and straight and not cut corners. Somebody to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake, and disc, and plow, and plant, and tie the fleece, and strain the milk, and replenish the self-feeder, and finish a hard week's work with a 5-mile drive to church. Somebody who would bail a family together with the soft strongs of bonds of sharing, who would laugh and then sigh, and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what his dad does. So God made a farmer.
Amen. I love Ag Day. Representative Mabry.
All right, that's tough to follow, y'all. Judiciary is going to be meeting in room 107, 15 minutes upon adjournment. We're going to be hearing Senate Bill 62, House Bill 1298, House Bill 1227, and House Bill 1136 for action only. Please be there on time. 15 minutes upon adjournment. See you then.
Thank you. Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I signed up.
Thank you.
The Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee will meet across the way in Old State Library, 15 minutes upon adjournment, for 3 bills, 1272, 1261, and 1273. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Espinoza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to announce today that the students are not here yet, but they will be. Today I have from Brown International Academy in my district, the 4th grade class that will be in the building today. So if you see 4th graders running around, please say hi and give them a warm Colorado welcome. Thank you.
Representative Woog.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been granted permission to miss Thursday, Friday this week for an out-of-state funeral.
So approved. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to let everybody know that today is Faith in Action Day with Together Colorado. If any of you are in the gallery, please stand and we can recognize you. I know a lot of them are out in the lobby hoping to talk to us throughout the day, so please welcome the folks from Together Colorado to the General Assembly.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, for those that don't know, I'm from the San Luis Valley. and what do we grow in the San Luis Valley?
Potatoes!
Yes. And as you've seen, those wonderful pop-outs, those potatoes are sitting over here, and because today is Ag Day in Colorado. And I want to thank our potato growers from the San Luis Valley for always thinking of us and bringing us those bountiful bags of potatoes. You can also visit coloradopotato.org and see hundreds of potato recipes for soups, breakfast, appetizers, salads, and sides. And we have our potato growers up here in the gallery. We want to welcome them into the house here today. So let's give them a warm applause.
You say potato, I say potato. Okay. Majority Leader Duran, let's get to work.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the following bills be made special orders on Tuesday, March 18, 2025 at 9:37 a.m. House Bill 1208, House Bill 1204, House Bill 1175, House Bill 1279, House Bill 1282, and Senate Bill 68.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be made special orders today, March 18th at 9:37 a.m. Representative Wilford. Members, you've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Wilford will take the chair.
Kidding. This time with feeling. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader, and the Cope rule is relaxed. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over consideration of House Bill 1224 until tomorrow.
All right, House Bill 1224 will be laid over until tomorrow at the request of the Majority Leader. Mr. Shi will please read the title of House Bill 1208.
House Bill 1208 by Representatives Woodrow and Valdez, also Senator Amabile, concerning the tip offset associated with the local government's minimum wage, any connection therewith, requiring a local government that enacts a local minimum wage that exceeds the state minimum wage to satisfy certain requirements in determining the amount of the tip offset associated with the local government's minimum wage.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is an honor to serve with you.
And it's an honor to serve with you as well.
I move House Bill 25-1208 and the Finance Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you. Members, it's finally that time of session. We're past the midway point. The sun is shining. NCAA brackets are being filled out. And Woodrow bills are finally hitting the House floor. It is an honor to stand before you and present HB 25-1208, the Restaurant Relief Act, along with my co-prime sponsor, Representative Valdez. Friends, this body did something pretty remarkable back in 2019. It passed a law allowing for local control of minimum wages. Though I wasn't here at the time, I supported that effort, as granting local communities the ability to set a floor to meet their local needs made sense to me, particularly given rising costs. This led to cities like Boulder, Denver, and Edgewater to increase their minimum wages, which I applaud and support. But, as I'm sure my friends across the aisle will agree is too often the case, the legislation we passed was imperfect. And though authority to increase minimum wages was given over to local governments, nothing was done to account for the $3.02 tip offset that allows restaurant operators to credit a portion of the tips earned towards meeting hourly wage requirements. As a result, restaurants have seen the tip credit afford less and less relief. Their margins, already historically thin, are now non-existent. They are packing up and leaving Denver and Colorado altogether, taking jobs with them. The ones that are managing to stay afloat are slashing hours, shifts, and benefits. It's easy to see why. In Denver, where the minimum wage is $18.81 an hour and is set to increase again next year, the tip credit means employers are responsible for paying $15.79 an hour, so long as tips are sufficient to meet $18.81. For comparison purposes, in Manhattan, it's $16.50 with a $5 tip offset, so $11. That means it's $4.79 an hour more expensive to operate in Denver than in NYC per employee. Seeing what's happening in Denver and other cities, we've heard from local electeds who've told us that they've refrained from increasing their own local minimum wages because they don't want to become the next Denver. The current system is broken. It leads to reduced hours and benefits, closures, increased automation, and it prevents local governments from increasing their own minimum wages. We brought HB 25-1208 to find a solution. And though the vitriol has been over the top and counterproductive, through the steady study and discussion that is the legislative process, we believe we have found the answer. Pushback to the bill as introduced was significant. It would have provided for mandatory increases in the tip offset. While this would not cause anyone to earn less than the minimum wage, it would have reduced some people's wages. Someone making $35 an hour cannot simply budget for $31 an hour overnight, and that is not lost on any of the sponsors. We understand the impact and appreciate the anxiety we heard from opponents. Again, it is our intention to keep the doors open. We cannot have good-paying jobs if there are no jobs in the first place. Through the process, we have reached a compromise. I want to thank the majority leader for help in getting both sides to an agreement on an amendment that will provide for local governments the ability to address their tip offsets. This will empower Denver to address its crisis. 82% of restaurant closures throughout the state have been in Denver, by freeing up local governments to increase their minimums while accounting for the tip offset. Governance is about compromise. As I said in committee, a good compromise means that both sides leave feeling dissatisfied. And yes, that is what we have here. Restaurants wanted more. Others would like for there to have been no bill at all or full local control. In the end, it will now be on the locals to address this issue. I want to be clear that we understand that restaurants are under other pressures as well. Food costs, rent costs, and other expenses. We're not ignoring those when we stand ready to have those conversations. But when the model used to be 33, 33, 33, and labor costs now exceed 50% of operating budgets, we need to pay attention to that as well. We thank those who have engaged in good faith, with open minds, who continue to look for solutions instead of denying that problems exist. We ask for an aye vote.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this has obviously been something that is very personal to me as the representative of downtown Denver. You don't have to walk very far down here to see the state of our restaurant industry. There are 5 vacant restaurants within a block of here, and if you walk into downtown, you'll see more of the same. Our jobs as legislators is to see the forest through the trees. And when you talk about jobs, you need to talk about the up to 22,000 jobs that have been lost in Denver. If you have been out to eat in Denver, you have noticed there are no more back waiters, there are no more bus people, there are no more bar backs. There are no more restaurants open past 9 o'clock at night. Most of our restaurants close on Monday. Those are all cuts. Cuts being made to stay in business. This bill is about resetting a balance. The minimum wage bill that passed this chamber in 2019 was the first bill I ever came and spoke on in the well on seconds. And I spoke in support of it, and I still support it. But I was also involved in the conversations that had right away identified that this lack of addressing the tipped wage issue in the minimum wage bill we ran would mean that we would be back here sooner than later trying to solve an issue for governments who did the right thing in raising their minimum wage to track CPI. I'll remind everybody, we didn't get what we wanted here, which was to provide some immediate relief to the restaurants, but we do give the opportunity for them to go to City Hall and to talk to them about how we can save our restaurant industry. And if you don't think my district is important, I'm sorry, you'll have to look to Michigan as an example of what happens when a city doesn't take their downtown decline seriously. All of our public transportation that we are trying to get people to ride comes to downtown. It's all designed that way. Rents aren't going up. Denver has amongst the fastest falling lease rates in the country. Our vacancy rate is over 30%. It's ridiculous to say that we don't have a problem. And I want to be clear. The attacks that we took, we can take them. We're good at this. We've been here a long time. Doesn't bother us. But I want these people to hear me clearly when I say, you are not the reason we amended this bill. You never came to the table. You never engaged. You sniped from afar. And we compromised to get a zero fiscal note. So anyone out there who's talking about their role in this compromise, you're looking at the role in the compromise. The 2 Denver reps who are doing the work. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Mabry. This is to the committee report. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I do want to thank my colleagues and friends from downtown Denver and Wash Park for their work in amending this bill. I just want to highlight a few things here. It can never be a solution to anything in this building to cut wages for some of the lowest paid workers in the state, period. I heard an example about, people making $34 an hour getting cut to $31 an hour. Well, that might be true if you work at Tavernetta or one of the fancy restaurants downtown, but I guarantee you the servers that are working in the restaurants in my district aren't making $31 an hour. And so that $4 an hour cut goes much further. I also want to recognize, and the Colorado Sun put out a good article on this yesterday, that the numbers on restaurant closures in Denver, it's a complicated story. There's a lot of things happening in Denver. There's RTD bus routes that are preventing people from getting to Colfax. There's construction happening on the 16th Street Mall. And depending on where you are in the city, we see more and less closures. I don't see a lot of restaurant closures in my district. The small restaurants in my district are the backbone of House District 1. In my district, I have small mom and pop restaurants and I got liquor stores. And the small mom and pop restaurants aren't closing. There's one that closed, a treasure in Denver. Lao Wang was a restaurant that I know many of you have probably been to. They had the best dumplings in the city, but the owner was in her late 80s. And it's a complicated story there. I don't see other restaurants that are along Lao Wang closing down. I also want to highlight the fact that, we heard a comparison to New York City and the tip offset, folks making 11 something an hour in New York City. Well, in Los Angeles, restaurant workers make $17.28 an hour, and one of the prime sponsors mentioned that rent is cheaper here than it is in a lot of places. Well, rent's a lot cheaper here than it is in Los Angeles. And there's a lot of mom and pop restaurants that are doing just fine in Los Angeles. I also want to highlight that in Seattle, where rents are also higher, the minimum wage is $20 an hour, and there's no tip offset. And so I believe that we can find solutions to these issues and provide relief for small businesses that are struggling without doing so by sacrificing the pay of some of the lowest paid workers in the state. That's how we should focus on this issue. I will acknowledge that the amendments have come a long way. There's no pay cuts in this bill, as is, but I want to highlight the initial approach was to provide relief to restaurants by cutting the pay of some of the lowest paid workers. And to me, that can never be something, especially on my side of the aisle, that we look at. I think small businesses and workers should be finding solutions that are finding solutions to the problems that are impacting us all. Corporate price gouging is impacting restaurants and workers alike. The monopolization of our economy is impacting all of us. These are things that we should be taking on to provide relief to small businesses, not cutting the pay of the lowest paid workers. I appreciate the work that has been done on this bill, but I will still be a no.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where is this one? It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
First, I would like to thank my colleagues for bringing this bill. I know that it's been a lot of work, and I know that you are motivated to help your district, and I appreciate all the time that you've put in, and I very much appreciate the amendment that you put forward for partial local control. However, I do feel compelled to speak against this bill. And for me, it goes back to the notion that the only way to save our restaurants is to take money out of the pockets of the people who make that restaurant run. I don't doubt that we have small businesses that are struggling, but the idea that we have to look to our most vulnerable to bail them out is something that I could never get behind. I appreciate the sponsor of this bill saying they are open to looking at other factors, regulations, cost of rent, cost of food. But that is not what is before this body today. What is before this body today is the notion that we take money out of the pockets of workers, that we put families in a position where they may struggle to feed their kids and make ends meet. We have discussed a lot of bills in committee, bills that would save restaurants more money than this one does. And so I cannot, in good faith, support something that puts people's livelihoods at risk, especially when it's the lowest paid workers in our state. So where we're at right now, this bill lets cities increase the tip offset, not decrease it or eliminate it. This does entrench our state's reliance on the tipped economy. And a higher local tip offset means that a higher percentage of a worker's income is going to be uncertain. We have repeatedly heard from the Denver Auditor's Office that confusion over the tip offset is a significant cause of wage theft. And I think that this bill adds to that confusion and is going to make it easier for bad actors to take advantage of their workers. We have also heard from businesses that there are far more contributing threats to closure, things like high utility fees, price gouging of ingredients, rising rents, the expansion of ghost kitchens and food delivery services, and to act like the solution is cutting workers' wages when we have all of these other factors at play is something I urge this body to reject. This bill does pose significant local control issues. I am happy that we are giving some more flexibility to local governments, but the fact remains that our local governments knows what is best for their communities. And we are allowing them to increase the tip offset but not decrease it. If we are going to give local control, we should be giving local control. We talk a lot about right-sizing bills in this chamber. And I don't think we have right-sized this one just yet. But regardless of how you feel about those things, regardless of if you think that we should be taking money out of people's pockets and you think that is the solution, or if you don't, regardless of whether you think we should be giving local governments complete control or not, the truth of the matter is that this body does not have the authority to make this decision today. There is a serious constitutional concern with this bill. In Section 15, it in plain language says, no more than $3.02 per hour of tip income may be used to offset the minimum wage of employees who regularly receive tips. We are flying in the face of that and asking for a constitutional challenge to this bill. Note that that same language is not present for the increase of minimum wage. That no more than language is only present when talking about tip offsets. It is very clear that this sentence was written to prevent us from doing what we are doing here today. And if this is a path that you think we should be taking, then the correct move is to put that to the voters to make that decision. This has been one of the hardest bills that we've seen this session. There's been a lot of emotion from people on both sides. I appreciate that we've come to a compromise, but we still are putting people's livelihoods at risk. I urge a no vote.
Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill. When this bill came first to Finance, it was, as you heard, it was in a very different position. It was a very different bill than what you have today. I respect the work that the sponsors have done, hearing the concerns from those who are directly impacted, those who are servers, those who are tipped workers. I understand the concerns from restaurants who are trying to make ends meet. And even so, with this amendment that only allows, as we just heard, partial local control to only increase the tip offset, which results in a decrease in pay, is still not the solution. I did some very quick calculations, and even initially, with the original bill, with a $4 tip offset decrease, this would have amounted to a savings of $2,000 in a restaurant that had roughly 5 servers, letting 2 servers go, going down to 1 server during the slow time, bringing back 6 servers for the dinner rush, having 2 closers. I know this because I was a server. I worked in a restaurant for many, many years. I know the challenges it is already when you don't know what you're going to take home every day because you rely on the goodwill of people who are coming to eat. We heard testimony of servers that would come and talk about the harassment that they face as a server and then having to face that while barely making ends meet. I echo my colleagues in understanding and recognizing that there is definitely something we need to do to impact and affect the supply chain that is drowning our restaurants. But the supply chain does not include our servers. The solutions to addressing the high costs should not include wages. When in history, I challenge anyone to this well, when in history have we ever solved an industrial challenge, a sector challenge, a business challenge by cutting wages that allowed that industry to thrive? When in history has that ever proven possible? Never once. So why would we assume that it would work now? I urge a no vote.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have an example. It wasn't like a state regulation, but in a nonprofit I worked in, I was able to convince people to give me less money in order for the difference to be used to pay 2 other workers who then were able to bolster the whole company, which then allowed for, additional generation of our mandate and mission and therefore funds. So I think there probably are some examples, but I don't know of any that come through the state mandating anything. Anyways, that's not why I got up here. My request is for someone to explain to me why this bill didn't go to appropriations, because according to the fiscal note, both online and the one I have in my packet, which may not be the most recent one, in the event that the amendments you guys adopted somehow struck this and there was a memo that I've missed. But if that's not the case, then I would like to understand why this didn't go to approps and what we're doing with this money.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you for the question, Representative Luck. You do not have the most up-to-date copy of the fiscal note. It was redone based on the amendment. There's no fiscal impact.
Representative Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I understand what's trying to be done here and what they're trying to fix. However, I sat in committee, and I did not hear everything that could have been done. They didn't look at it. When I heard the restaurant owners testify, I did not hear where very few looked at splitting the tips between the back house and the front house. The rent, the outrageous rent, especially in Denver, that is paid by these restaurant owners. The food costs, no, they went straight to cut workers' pay. I did not come to the State House to cut workers' pay. I came here to protect workers and seniors. And yes, we still have seniors doing this work. So I rise in support of what my previous colleagues said. I echo what they said. So therefore, I will be a no vote on this. I just cannot get there when we're coming to cut pay off the backs of the workers when everything is already so outrageous. Thank you.
Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support of House Bill 1208 and the negotiated bill you see before you. This bill now allows local governments who already have chosen to increase their minimum wage above the state minimum wage, or those who might choose in the future, local control, I can't say it enough, local control to also increase the tip offset above the current set of $3.02 in the state constitution. Local governments will now have the ability to choose what works best for them. And isn't that what we're talking about? Local control, choice. We've seen from this bill the policy discussions at hand have been divisive. We all know that on divisive issues like this, finding a good compromise where both sides end up slightly disappointed is often the best policy passed. Representative Woodrow and Valdez have heard loud and clear from many in the downtown Denver community that their local independent restaurants are closing at rapid rates. And we also heard pushback from labor and many employees that the solution on the table didn't work for them. The bill you see before you today removes the stagnant nature of the current structure, allowing for local control, and does not, and I repeat, does not require any wage reductions. This is a good compromise, and I'm pleased to stand before you today and urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I appreciate the respectful dialogue today. For the record, California has no tip offset, something opponents would like to have seen us make possible with this bill. So Los Angeles, that's at 1728. Denver is at 1881 and climbing. Seattle is bleeding restaurants too. I have worked as a server, and it was some of the toughest work I've ever done. And we've listened to servers and bartenders, and they don't want their tips taken away. Please vote yes on 1208.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for your yes vote today. To do nothing is not an option here, and to push this to the locals to have this conversation is the best thing we can do today to hopefully create a situation in the future where we have a sustainable restaurant industry. You know, the only thing I want to respond to is the massive amount of job losses amount to those jobs that we are trying to protect being eliminated. Every restaurant closure eliminates those jobs. Our goal is to stop that. The council's asked for local control, and with the passage of this bill, they will have it. And I hope they do the right thing.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1208. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1208 is passed. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1204.
House Bill 1204 by Representatives Duran and Joseph, concerning the codification of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 as the Colorado Indian Child Welfare Act.
Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1204 and the Health and Human Services report.
To the committee report.
In Health and Human Services, we made a few technical changes as well as some changes to due diligence requirements and modified reporting requirements have been revised to ensure that CDHS complies with the applicable federal reporting requirements regarding the adoption and foster care analysis and reporting systems under federal regulations and to reflect what CDHS trail system currently tracks. And we ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? All right, seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee report is passed. To the bill. Representative Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is an honor to present House Bill 1204 with my majority leader. The bill codifies the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 into state law and provide additional statute to protect Indian children and their cultural identities, and we ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love bills aimed at child welfare like this. In fact, that tends to be my legislative priorities, to protect children in our state, the most innocent and the most vulnerable, who cannot protect themselves. In fact, it's sad that 150 years into our state's history, as demonstrated by this bill and my bills, there's still many places where our kids remain unprotected in our state and an unwillingness to protect them. 70% of child rapists get probation for their crime, and that's why I think we should think about that, why I have this bill read at length. Thank you.
All right.
A bill for an act. 101 concerning the codification of the Federal Indian Child. 102 Welfare Act of 1978 inch as the Colorado Indian Child 103 Welfare Act. Bill summary. Note, this summary applies to this bill as introduced and does not reflect any amendments that may be subsequently adopted. If this bill passes third reading in the House of Introduction, a bill summary that applies to the re-engrossed version of this bill will be available at http://leg.colorado.gov. The bill codifies the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 into state law as the Colorado Indian Child Welfare Act, COICWA, provides additional protections for Indian children and children known to be Indian children under state law. House sponsorship Duran and Joseph. Senate sponsorship, none. Shading denotes House amendment. Double underlining denotes Senate amendment. Capital letters or bold and italic numbers indicate new material to be added to existing law. Dashes through the words or numbers indicate deletions from existing law. 1. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado, 2 Section 1. In Colorado Revised Statutes, repeal 19-1-126 as 3 follows, for 19-1-126. Compliance with the Federal Indian Child Welfare 5 Act of 1978. 1. In each case filed pursuant to this Title 19 that 6 constitutes a child custody proceeding, as defined in the Federal Indian 7 Child Welfare Act of 1978, 25 U.S.C. Sector 1901 e-seek, and therefore to 8 which the terms of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, 25 9 U.S.C. Sector 1901 e-seek, apply. The court and each party to the proceeding 10 shall comply with the federal implementing regulations, and any 11 modifications thereof, of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 inch, 1225 U.S.C. Sector 1901 e-seek, located in 25 CFR 23, which outline the 13 minimum federal standards governing the implementation of the Indian 14 Child Welfare Act of 1978 to ensure the statute is applied in Colorado. Consistent with the Act's express language, Congress's intent in enacting. 16. The statute, and to promote the stability and security of Indian children, 17 tribes, and families. In each child custody proceeding filed pursuant to 18 this Title 19 to which the terms of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act 19 of 1978, 25 U.S.C. Sector 1901 e-seek, apply. 20. A. I. The court shall make inquiries to determine whether the 21 child who is the subject of the proceeding is an Indian child, and, if so, 22 shall determine the identity of the Indian child's tribe. In determining the 23 Indian child's tribe, 24. A. The court shall ask each participant in an emergency or 25 voluntary or involuntary child custody proceeding whether the participant 26 knows or has reason to know that the child is an Indian child. The inquiry. Dash 2, HB 25-1204. 1 is to be made at the commencement of the proceeding, and all responses 2 must be on the record. The court shall instruct the participants to inform 3 the court if any participant subsequently receives information that 4 provides reason to know the child is an Indian child. 5b. Any party to the proceeding shall disclose any information 6 indicating that the child is an Indian child or provide an identification 7 card indicating membership in a tribe to the petitioning and filing parties 8 and the court in a timely manner. The court shall order the party to 9 provide the information no later than 7 business days after the date 10 of the hearing or prior to the next hearing on the matter, whichever occurs 11 first. The information should be filed with the court and provided to the 12 County Department of Human or Social Services and each party no later 13 than 7 business days after the date of the hearing. 14. 2. The court, upon conducting the inquiry described in 15 subsection 1a I of this section, has reason to know that a child is an 16 Indian child if 17a. Any participant in the child custody proceeding, officer of the 18 court involved in the child custody proceeding, Indian tribe, Indian 19 organization, or agency informs the court that the child is an Indian child. 20b. Any participant in the child custody proceeding, officer of the 21 court involved in the child custody proceeding, Indian tribe, Indian 22 organization, or agency, informs the court that it has discovered 23 information indicating that the child is an Indian child. 24. C. The child who is the subject of the child custody proceeding 25 gives the court reason to know he or she is an Indian child. 26. D. The court is informed that the domicile or residence of the 27 child, the child's parent, or the child's Indian custodian is on a reservation. Dash 3, HB 25-1204. 1 or in an Alaska Native village. 2. E. The court is informed that the child is or has been a ward of 3 a tribal court, as defined in 25 U.S.C. Sector 1903, or 4. F. The court is informed that the child or the child's parent 5 possesses an identification card indicating membership in an Indian tribe. 6. B. If the court knows or has reason to know, as defined in 7 subsection 1a, 2 of this section, that the child who is the subject of the 8 proceeding is an Indian child, the petitioning or filing party shall send 9 notice by registered or certified mail, return receipt requested, to the 10 parent or parents, the Indian custodian or Indian custodians of the child 11 and to the tribal agent of the Indian child's tribe as designated in 25 CFR 1223 or, if there is no designated tribal agent, the petitioning or filing party 13 shall contact the tribe to be directed to the appropriate office or 14 individual. In providing notice, the court and each party shall comply with 1525 CFR 23.111. 16. C. The petitioning or filing party shall disclose in the complaint, 17 petition, or other commencing pleading filed with the court that the child 18 who is the subject of the proceeding is an Indian child and the identity of 19 the Indian child's tribe or what efforts the petitioning or filing party has 20 made in determining whether the child is an Indian child. If the child who 21 is the subject of the proceeding is determined to be an Indian child, the 22 petitioning or filing party shall further identify what reasonable efforts 23 have been made to send notice to the persons identified in subsection 24, 1b, of this section. The postal receipts indicating that notice was 25 properly sent by the petitioning or filing party to the parent or Indian 26 custodian of the Indian child and to the Indian child's tribe must be 27 attached to the complaint, petition, or other commencing pleading filed. Dash 4, HB 25-1204. 1 with the court, except that, if notification has not been perfected at the 2 time the initial complaint, petition, or other commencing pleading is filed 3 with the court or if the postal receipts have not been received back from for the post office, the petitioning or filing party shall file the postal receipts 5 with the court. Any responses sent by the tribal agents to the petitioning 6 or filing party, the County Department of Human or Social Services, or the 7 court must be distributed to the parties and deposited with the court. 8. 2. If there is reason to know the child is an Indian child but the 9 court does not have sufficient evidence to determine that the child is or 10 is not an Indian child, the court shall, 11a, confirm, by way of a report, declaration, or testimony included 12 in the record, that the petitioning or filing party used due diligence to 13 identify and work with all of the tribes of which there is reason to know. 14. The child may be a member, or eligible for membership, to verify whether 15. The child is in fact a member, or a biological parent is a member and the 16 child is eligible for membership, and 17. B. Treat the child as an Indian child, unless and until it is 18 determined on the record that the child does not meet the definition of a 19 Indian child. 23. If the court receives information that the child may have 21 Indian heritage but does not have sufficient information to determine that 22 there is reason to know that the child is an Indian child pursuant to 23 subsection 1a, 2 of this section, the court shall direct the petitioning 24 or filing party to exercise due diligence in gathering additional 25 information that would assist the court in determining whether there is 26 reason to know that the child is an Indian child. The court shall direct the 27 petitioning or filing party to make a record of the effort taken to. Dash 5, HB 25-1204. 1. Determine whether or not there is reason to know that the child is an 2 Indian child. 3. 4. The requirements of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 4 1978, 25 U.S.C. Sector 1901 E.Seek, in effect as of February 9, 2003, and 5. The related regulations located at 25 CFR 23, in effect as of February 9, 6, 2023, are incorporated into and adopted as state law. 7. Section 2. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add Article 1.2 to Title 819 as follows. 9 Article 1.210 Colorado Indian Child Welfare Act 1119-1.2-101. Short title. The short title of this Article 1.2 is 12 The Colorado Indian Child Welfare Act. 1319-1.2-102. Legislative Declaration. 1. The General 14 Assembly finds and declares that 15a. Historically, an alarmingly high percentage of Indian 16 families were disrupted by the removal, often unwarranted, of 17 their children by non-tribal public and private agencies, and 18 that a disturbingly high percentage of those Indian children. 19 were placed in non-Indian foster and adoptive homes and 20 institutions, 21b, as a result of these actions, thousands of Indian 22 families, tribal nations, and entire cultures were devastated. 23c, the states, in exercising their recognized jurisdiction 24 over Indian child custody proceedings through administrative 25 and judicial bodies, historically failed to recognize the 26 essential tribal relations of Indian people and the cultural and 27 social standards prevailing in Indian communities and cultures. 6, HB 25-1204. 1d. In response to these circumstances, the United States II Congress passed the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, 325 U.S.C. SEC, 1901 ETSEQ, known as ICWA. TO protect the best 4 interests of Indian children and TO promote the stability and 5 security of Indian tribes and families by establishing minimum 6 federal standards for the removal of Indian children from their 7 families and for the placement of those Indian children in foster 8 or adoptive homes that would reflect the unique values of 9 Indian culture. The Act provides assistance to Indian tribes in 10 the operation of child and family service programs. 11e. ICWA has been the subject of targeted attacks in the 12 federal courts, including most recently in Holland v. Burkeen, 13599 U.S. 255, 2023, in which the United States Supreme Court 14 upheld ICWA in its entirety. Even with Holland v. Burkeen 15 upholding ICWA, the law remains subject to challenge. 16f. The Colorado General Assembly can combat 17 challenges TO ICWA by upholding ICWA's recognized Gold 18 standard in child welfare protection. 19 G. AS of 2025, 17 states have passed comprehensive 20-state ICWA laws while Colorado has adopted parts of the 21 federal law and, most recently in Senate Bill 23-211, adopted 22 and incorporated ICWA and ITS regulations by reference AS 23 Colorado Law. 24 H. A critical element of ICWA is the requirement 225 notify an Indian child's tribe when a state court proceeding IS 26 commenced that could result in the placement of the Indian 27 child out of the Indian child's home. The purpose of the notice is 7 HB 25-1204. 1. To provide the Indian child's tribe the opportunity to transfer the case to a tribal court or otherwise participate in the state 3 court proceeding. 4. TO achieve these goals. IT is crucial. TO determine 5 consistently and faithfully whether a child who is the subject 6 of these types of state court proceedings is an Indian child, and 7 TO ensure that, if so, appropriate and timely notice is provided. 8. Particularly notice to the relevant tribes when the County 9 Department of Human or Social Services receives information 10 that a child may be an Indian child. 11 J. The state of Colorado has previously recognized that 12 Indian tribes have a compelling interest in promoting and 13 maintaining their integrity and culture by entering into federal 14 Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 agreements with the 15 Southern Utah Indian Tribe and the Utah Mountain Utah Indian 16 Tribe. The agreements, among other things, place stringent 17 notice requirements on the state in proceedings involving Indian 18 children and provide for the delay of proceedings until the 19 required notice has been provided to the tribe in question. The 20 state of Colorado further recognizes that the Department of 21 Human Services may also enter into a tribal state agreement 22 with tribes outside of Colorado that have significant numbers 23 of member Indian children or membership eligible Indian 24 children residing in Colorado. 25 K. Colorado is committed to the consistent application of 26 and compliance with the federal ICWA throughout the state. 227 ensure that proper notice is provided and procedures are 8 HB 25-1204. 1. Followed as specified by ICWA when state court actions involve 2 Indian children, and 3 L. Nothing is more vital to the continued existence and for integrity of Indian tribes than their children. 5. 2. Therefore, the General Assembly determines and 6 declares that 7 A. IT is appropriate and in the best interests of the Indian 8 families who are intended to be protected by the terms of the 9 Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 and the Indian 10 children represented thereby that 11 I. The Federal Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, 12 agreements entered into between the state of Colorado and the 13 Southern UTE Indian Tribe and the UTE Mountain UTE Indian 14 Tribe are reaffirmed, and 15, 2, a comprehensive Colorado Indian Child Welfare Act, 16 is enacted to ensure consistent and reliable compliance with the 17 federal ICWA for the protection of Indian children within 18 Colorado and to ensure that Indian children in this state are 19 protected as stated should the federal law be appealed. 20 modified, or otherwise annulled. 21b. The state of Colorado recognizes all federally 22 recognized Indian tribes as having the inherent authority to 23 determine their own jurisdiction for any and all Indian Child 24 custody or child placement proceedings, regardless of whether 25 the tribe's members are on or off the reservation and regardless 26 of the procedural posture of the proceeding. 27c. The state of Colorado has long recognized the -9 HB 25-1204. One importance of Indian children to their tribes, not only as two members of tribal families and communities but also as the three tribes' greatest resource as future members and leaders of the four tribe. The vitality of Indian children in Colorado is essential to 5 the health and welfare of both the state and tribes, and is 6 essential to the future welfare and continued existence of the 7 tribes. 8d. It is the policy of the state to cooperate fully with 9 Indian tribes and tribal citizens to ensure that the intent and 10 provisions of the federal ICWA are enforced, and 11e. Advancing ICWA is consistent with the Colorado 12 Children's Code and with Article 2 of the state constitution. 13.3. Therefore, the General Assembly declares that the 14th purpose of this Article 1.2 is to codify the Federal Indian Child 15 Welfare Act of 1978 into state law and to provide additional 16 protections for Indian children pursuant to state law. 1719-1.2-103. Definitions. As used in this Article 1.2, unless 18. The context otherwise requires. 19. 1. Active efforts means efforts that are affirmative. 20. Active, thorough, timely, and intended to maintain or reunite in 21 Indian child with the Indian child's family by providing remedial 22 services and rehabilitative programs. Active efforts require 23 more than a referral to a service and must be conducted in 24 partnership with the Indian child, the Indian child's parent or 25 Indian custodian, extended family members, and the tribe. 26. 2. A child custody proceeding means a child custody 27 proceeding within the court's jurisdiction and includes -10 HB 25-1204. 1. Foster care placements, including any action removing to an Indian child from the Indian child's parent or Indian free custodian for temporary placement in a foster home or for institution, or the home of a guardian or conservator when the 5 Indian parent or Indian custodian cannot have the Indian child. 6. Returned upon demand but parental rights have not been 7. Terminated, including, but not limited to, a hearing held 8 pursuant to Section 19-3-405, 19-3-507, 19-3-508, or 19-3-702, 9. 2. Termination of parental rights, including any action 10 resulting in the termination of the parent-child relationship. 11. 3. Periadoptive placement, including the temporary 12 placement of an Indian child in a foster home or institution. 13. After the termination of parental rights but prior to or in lieu. 14. Of adoptive placement. 15. 4. Adoptive placement, including the permanent 16 placement of an Indian child for adoption and any action 17 resulting in a final decree of adoption. 18. V. A parentage determination, and 19. 6. Guardianship or allocation of parental 20 responsibilities to a non-parent, including an action taken in a 21 probate or domestic relations case removing an Indian child. 22. From the Indian child's parent or Indian custodian for temporary 23 placement in the home of a guardian, conservator, or non-parent. 24. When the Indian child's parent or Indian custodian cannot have 25. The Indian child returned upon demand but parental rights have 26 not been terminated. 27. B. An action that may culminate in one of the outcomes. 11. HB 25-1204. 1 described in subsection 2a of this section is a separate child 2 custody proceeding from an action that may culminate in a 3 different one of the outcomes. There may be several child 4 custody proceedings involving an Indian child, and within each 5 child custody proceeding, there may be several separate 6 hearings. 7. C. Child custody proceeding does not include 8. A proceeding for the custody or support of, or 9. Parenting time with, an Indian child that is solely between 2 10 parents. 11. 2. An emergency proceeding as described in Section 1219-1.2-110, or 13. 3. A delinquency proceeding other than those based 14 solely on a status offense. 15. 3. Court means a district court, juvenile court, or 16. Probate court that is presiding over a child custody proceeding. 17. 4. Custody or continued custody means having legal 18 or physical custody, or both, of an Indian child pursuant to 19. Applicable tribal law, tribal custom, or state law.an individual. 20. Has custody of an Indian child if the individual is the Indian 21 child's parent, if the individual has physical custody through an 22 arrangement with the Indian child's parent outside of the 23 involvement of a child welfare or child placement agency, or if 24 the individual has legal custody of the Indian child pursuant to 25 applicable tribal law, tribal custom, or state law. An Indian 26 child's parent, as determined pursuant to Section 19-1.2-105, is 27 deemed to have custody or continued custody when the parent 12. HB 25-1204. 1 already has or had custody at any point in the past. 2. 5. A. Domicile means the place an individual regards as 3 home, where the individual intends to remain, or 2 which, if 4 absent, the individual intends to return. 5b. An Indian child's domicile, in order of priority, is the sixth domicile of 7i. The Indian child's parents, or, if the Indian child's 8 parents do not have the same domicile, the Indian child's parent 9 who has physical custody of the Indian child, 10.2. The Indian child's Indian custodian, or 11.3. The Indian child's guardian. 12.6. Due diligence means the earnest endeavor of the 13 court and the petitioning or filing party to investigate the basis 14 for a party's or other individual's assertion that a child may be 15 an Indian child, as described in section 19-1.2-108. 16.7. Emergency proceeding means any court action that 17 involves the emergency removal or emergency placement of an 18 Indian child, including removal pursuant to section 19-1.2-110. 1919-1.2-124, 19-3-405, 14-10-129, 4, or 15-14-204, 5, with or without 20A protective custody order, or a temporary shelter care 21 proceeding pursuant to section 19-3-401 or 19-3-403. 22.8a. Extended family member has the same meaning as 23 given in the tribal law or tribal custom of the Indian child's 24 tribe. 25b. If the meaning of extended family member cannot be 26 determined pursuant to subsection 8a of this section, 27 extended family member means an individual who has attained. 13 HB 25-1204. 1 18 years of age and who is the Indian child's grandparent, 2 aunt, uncle, brother, sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, niece, 3 nephew, first or second cousin, godparent, step-parent, or 4 step-grandparent, or as determined by the Indian child's tribe 5 member. Even following termination of a marriage, a godparent, 6 step-parent, or step-grandparent is considered an extended 7 family member. 8.9. Indian means an individual who is a member of a 9 Indian tribe or who is an Alaska Native and a member of a 10 regional corporation, as defined in the Alaska Native Claims 11 Settlement Act, 43 U.S.C. SEC 1606. 12.10. Indian child means an unmarried individual who has 13 not attained 18 years of age and 14a. is a member or citizen of an Indian tribe, or 15b. is eligible for membership or citizenship in an Indian 16 tribe as determined by that Indian tribe in writing or orally on 17 the record and is the biological child of a member of an Indian 18 tribe. 19.11. Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 or ICWA means 20 the federal law found at 25 U.S.C. SEC 1901 EDSEC and its 21 implementing regulations. 22.12. Indian custodian means an Indian, other than the 23 Indian child's parent, who has been granted legal custody or 24 guardianship of the Indian child pursuant to tribal law, tribal 25 custom, or state law, or to whom temporary physical care, 26 custody, and control has been transferred by the Indian child's 27 parent outside the involvement of a child welfare or child. 14. HB 25-1204. 1 Placement agency. 2.13. Indian organization means a group, association, 3 partnership, corporation, or other legal entity owned or for controlled by Indians or with a majority of Indian members. 5.14. Indian tribe or tribe means an Indian tribe, clan, 6 band, nation, or other organized group or community of Indians. 7 federally recognized as eligible for the services provided to 8 Indians by the United States Secretary of the Interior because 9 of their status as Indians, including any Alaska Native village 10 as defined in the federal Alaska Native Claims Settlement 11 ACT, 43 U.S.C. SEC, 1602, c. 12.15. Member or membership means a determination by 13 an Indian tribe through its tribal law or tribal custom that an 14 individual is a member or citizen of that Indian tribe. 15.16. Parent means 16a. A biological parent of an Indian child, except for an 17 unwed father whose parentage has not been acknowledged or 18 established pursuant to section 19-1.2-105, the Uniform 19 Parentage ACT, Article 4 of this Title 19, or Tribal Law, 20b. An individual who has lawfully adopted an Indian 21 child, including an adoption made pursuant to tribal law or 22 tribal custom, or 23c. A parent whose parentage has been acknowledged or 24 established pursuant to section 19-1.2-105, the Uniform 25 Parentage ACT, Article 4 of this Title 19, or Tribal Law. 26.17. Party or parties means a party to a child custody 27 proceeding. 15. HB 25-1204. 1.18. Reason to know means that a court or a petitioning to or filing party has reason to know that a child is an Indian 3 child, as described in section 19-1.2-108. 4.19. Reservation means 5a. Indian country, as defined in 18 U.S.C. SEC 1151, and 6 any lands not covered pursuant to that section and title that 7 are held by the United States in trust for the benefit of an 8 Indian tribe or individual or held by an Indian tribe or individual 9 subject to a restriction by the United States against alienation. 10 or 11b. For the Southern UT Indian Reservation. Those lands 12 include any lands confirmed pursuant to Pub.L. 98 to 290 and any 13 other land subsequently placed in trust by the United States. 14 for the Southern Utah Indian Tribes' benefit. 15.20. Termination of parental rights includes the 16 termination of parental rights pursuant to section 19-3-604 or 17 the termination of parental rights resulting from an adoption. 18 proceeding pursuant to Section 19-5-101, 19-5-105.5, or 19-5-105.7. 1921. Tribal court means a court with jurisdiction over 20 Indian child custody proceedings that is either a court of Indian 21 offenses, a court established and operated under the law or 22 custom of an Indian tribe, or any other administrative body of 23A tribe that is vested with authority over Indian child custody 24 proceedings. 25. 22. Tribal customary adoption means the adoption of 26 an Indian child by and through tribal law or tribal custom of 27 the Indian child's tribe and that may be effected without the -16, HB 25-1204. 1. Termination of parental rights. 2. 19-1.2-104. Applicability, incorporation of federal law. 3. 1. Unless explicitly stated otherwise in this Article 1.2, all 4 provisions of this Article 1.2 apply to all child custody 5 proceedings, any matter brought pursuant to the Uniform 6 Dissolution of Marriage Act, Article 10 of Title 14, the 7, Colorado Probate Code, Articles 10 to 17 of Title 15, all other 8 private matters that meet the definition of a child custody 9 proceeding, and the Colorado Children's Code, this Title 19. 10. 2. In a case filed pursuant to this Article 1.2 that 11 constitutes a child custody proceeding, the court and each 12 party to the proceeding shall also comply with the Federal 13 implementing regulations of the Federal Indian Child Welfare 14 Act of 1978 that outline the minimum federal standards 15 governing ICWA's implementation to ensure that ICWA is applied 16 in Colorado consistent with the ICWA's express language. 17. Congress's intent in enacting ICWA and to promote the stability, 18. and security of Indian children, tribes, and families. 19. 3. All provisions of the Federal Indian Child Welfare 20 Act of 1978 are incorporated into this Article 1.2, even if not 21 specifically referenced. This Article 1.2 may provide additional 22 protections beyond those required by the Federal ICWA, in 23 which case the provisions of this Article 1.2 apply. 24. 19-1.2-105. Parentage of an Indian child, acknowledged or 25 established, applicability of Article 1. Parentage of an Indian 26 child is acknowledged or established for purposes of this 27 Article 1.2 if the individual's parentage has been -17, HB 25-1204. 1a. Established pursuant to Article 4 of this Title 19, 2b. Established pursuant to tribal law, or 3c. Recognized in accordance with tribal custom. 4. 2a. For purposes of determining the biological parent 5 of an Indian child, a court may order genetic tests pursuant to 6 Section 19-4-112 or 13-25-126. 7b. If an individual fails to comply with the court's Order 8 for genetic tests within a reasonable amount of time, the court may 9th issue a subpoena pursuant to Section 19-4-112 or issue and 10 order to compel the individual to appear for genetic tests. 11c. If the genetic tests ordered pursuant to this 12 subsection 2 do not confirm that an individual is the biological 13 parent of the child as provided in Section 19-4-105, 1f, or if the 14 individual has refused to consent to the genetic tests, the 15 individual is not established as the child's biological parent. 16.3. This Article 1.2 applies in its entirety if an individual is 17. Determined to be a parent of an Indian child. 18.19-1.2-106. Best interests of an Indian child, factors to 19 consider. 1. In a child custody proceeding involving an Indian 20 child, when making a determination regarding the best interests 21 of the Indian child, the court shall, in consultation with the 22 Indian child's tribe and tribal community, consider the 23 following. 24a. The Indian child's mental, physical, and emotional 25 needs, including the Indian child's preferences. 26b. The prevention of unnecessary out-of home placement 27 of the Indian child. 18. HB 25-1204. 1c. The prioritization of placement of the Indian child in accordance with the placement preferences set forth in Section 319-1.2-120. 4d. The value to the Indian child of establishing, 5. Developing, or maintaining a political, cultural, social, and 6. Spiritual relationship with the Indian child's tribe and tribal 7 community, and 8e. The importance to the Indian child of the Indian tribes 9 or tribal communities' ability to maintain the tribes or tribal 10 communities. Existence and integrity for the stability and 11. Security of Indian children and families. 12.19-1.2-107. Enrollment of an Indian child with a tribe. 13.1. Unless an Indian child's parent objects, the petitioning or 14 filing party or the Indian tribe shall assist in enrolling an 15 Indian child who is in the court's jurisdiction in a tribe with 16 which the child is eligible for enrollment. If the Indian child is 17 eligible to be enrolled in more than one tribe, the court shall 18. Determine membership pursuant to Section 19-1.2-108. 19.2. In accordance with subsection 1 of this section, when 20 the petitioning or filing party, including a county department or 21 a child placement agency, has reason to know that the child is 22 an Indian child, the petitioning or filing party shall, at a 23 minimum, contact in writing or orally on the record the 24 relevant tribe or tribes with which the child may be eligible for 25 enrollment to determine if the child is in fact eligible for 26 enrollment. The notification to the relevant tribe or tribes may 27th be done in conjunction with the notice requirements set forth in 19, HB
Representative Bradley.
25-1204.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to have
One
the bill
section
stopped.
19-1.2-108.
The bill reading will be stopped. Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1204. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill passes. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1175. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1279.
Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1279.
House Bill 1279 by Representative Stewart R., also Senator Judah, concerning collecting state-level data for the Colorado Works program.
Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1279 and the committee report of the Health and Human Services.
And the Appropriations Committee report.
And the Appropriations Committee report.
All right, to the Appropriations Committee report. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Appropriations Committee, we amended the bill to remove about half of the fiscal note through removing redundancies, and I would urge an aye vote.
All right, is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report is passed. To the Health and Human Services Committee report, Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L006 to the Health and Human Services Committee report and ask that it be properly displayed.
Okay, Amendment 6 has been properly moved and is now displayed. Please proceed, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. L006 just provides additional clarification because of our stakeholding that the reporting of new data points will be quarterly until the system for reporting is updated so that it can be reported monthly, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L006. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. To the committee report. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the House Health and Human Services Committee, we added quite a few clarifying amendments around reporting and made sure that the appropriate stakeholders were included in the bill, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report, as amended, is adopted. To the bill, Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill is an important study of a really critical program in the state of Colorado to ensure that we have the right data to know what types of programs our counties are using that are helping to move people successfully out of poverty, and I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1279? Representative Garcia Sander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was a no vote in committee. Because of the fiscal impacts, my concern was really around the appropriations and the question on whether federal funding is going to be here to support such a study. And I guess coming again from the education world, we fund a lot of studies, and this year I just don't see this as a must-have. It may be a nice to have, a wish to have, a want to have, but when we're trying to count every penny and make sure that it's being spent for the benefit of every one of Colorado's taxpayers, just looking at the pennies, I just don't see that this is the year to have this as a need to have. I don't see it as a need to have. I think it's a nice to have or a want to have or a wish to have, and I urge a no vote.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was also a no vote in committee because there were a lot of questions still unknown. We are dealing with a federal program, federal monies, and we are seeing, we don't know how this is going to affect this program. I'm also concerned with the fiscal note and if this is going to lead to unfunded mandates on our local level. When there's so many unknowns when it comes to money, it really just makes me wonder of, yes, I get the need of this, but but I will echo my good colleagues' comments on, is it a must-have this year? Do we wait to see? Is there ways to guarantee that this is not an unfunded mandate at the local level? Are there ways to see if the monies are coming from the federal level? Right now in the state, we are the middle connector between the local and the federal, and there are just too many unknowns that would love to have guarantees on this before we do actions that may need to be required. Future bills to come fix this one in the absence of any guarantees. We also are talking about this with a lot of broad numbers. When you look at TANF, there are a lot of things that have to come into play. TANF, for those who are not aware, is Colorado's temporary assistance for needy families, but this comes through federal funds. So when you're looking at federal funds, again, which 75% of this comes from federal funding, that is a huge amount that we need to make sure we have those guarantees. And so we need to make sure there's some way to say what Colorado is doing while we wait for those federals, because we don't have power at the state level to tell federal what to do. We need to make sure we guarantee what we're doing at the state does not jeopardize those needed funds at the federal level. And so that is why I was a no in committee.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo what the great reps just both said. $317,000 for budget year 2025-2026. $330,000 for budget year 2026-2027. Where is this money coming from? We're $1 billion in the hole. Where is it coming from? Federal funding, $301,000. We have made it very clear those federal funds are not going to be available. We get a $9 billion for HICPUF from federal funding. JBC just got asked for another $150 billion in funds. I hesitate to say that a task force or a study is not going to be the top of the priority on the list of priorities when Medicaid unwind has been so poorly done and people are without insurance. This is not going to be the top of the priorities. How this got out of appropriations is beyond me. We just don't have the financial capacity to spend $640,000 on a monthly data collection. I urge a no vote. We don't have the money to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These funds are actually sitting in a reserve account. And again, the Appropriations Committee amendment slashed the appropriation by more than half. It is really, really critical when we are talking about a fixed block grant that we are ensuring that we are spending taxpayer dollars as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can, and this study is critical in ensuring that we are being the best stewards of taxpayer dollar as we can. Again, I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1279 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1279 as amended passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 12, okay. Please read the title of House Bill 1175.
House Bill 1175 by Representative Leader concerning the establishment of an opt-in program for smart meters installed by a qualifying retail utility.
Representative Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, colleagues. I'm here to present House Bill 251175.
I'm going to ask that you move the bill in the committee report first, and then you can tell us all about it.
I move House Bill 251175 and the committee report.
All right, to the Energy and Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. See, you never remember everything. So I'm here to present House Bill 251175 and the committee report concerning the establishment of communications with the residential utility customer before installing a smart meter to communicate about an opt-in, opt-out program which is being installed by a qualifying retail, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Representative Woog. Okay, all right. Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Leader.
Thank you. I'm here to request your support for the important legislation about how advanced smart meters must be offered and communicated to Coloradans. I brought this bill because constituents and residents across the state shared concerns with me regarding the lack of communication and timing of these installations on their property. In some cases, was not even aware they received one because post-installation notices was not left for them. Additionally, there was concerns of RF toxins, privacy, and fire risks. Notably, I received information about the fire hazards linked to these meters. Number one cause was improper installation. So this bill lays the foundation for a communication plan utilities must provide clear and timely notice, 30, 60, and 90 days before installing advanced meters, ensuring residents know their rights to defer or reject installation. Homeowners may then request a basic meter instead of the advanced version or even have an existing advanced removed. Companies must meet state safety and FCC privacy standards and maintain a public website describing how they handle customer data, radio frequency concerns, as well as the customer's right to not have advanced metering infrastructure installed if they do not want one. Is anybody listening? It is important that we recognize that different communities have different concerns with health, safety, or privacy. The bill advances those diverse perspectives without banning the technology for those who want it in a monopolized market. So thank you for considering the bill, and I hope you'll join me in supporting a more informed choice for our constituents. And I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Woog.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill. And I just want to let my caucus know I was an aye vote. I do like the communication aspect, and you know, the ability to get the smart meter removed if that's not what someone wanted, of course. So I just think this is a good bill. I think it could be expanded probably to some other size utility, you know, qualifying retail utility companies. But I did support this, and I think this is a huge benefit for the customers. So I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1175. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1175 passes. Mr. Shebel, now please read the title of House Bill 1282.
House Bill 1282 by Representatives Brooks and Lindstedt, also Senators Doherty and Kirkmeyer, concerning prohibitions on certain payment card network practices involving electronic payment transactions.
Representative Lindstedt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1282.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 1282 will protect Colorado's small businesses by eliminating an unfair financial burden imposed by credit card companies. Small businesses are required to collect and remit sales taxes to the government and tips for their employees. This money does not belong to those businesses, but to the government and their employees. Yet, credit card companies are taking a cut for themselves. This bill will put an end to that practice and protect Colorado's small businesses from these large credit card companies. The credit card system is complex. Interchange fees are fees paid that the credit card acceptors pay to the card issuing banks, but the banks don't set the rates for the fees they get. Two card networks control roughly 85% of the card network market. These two companies set the fees on behalf of those card issuing banks so the banks don't have to compete on fee rates, which is a really great deal for those financial institutions, but it doesn't mean that the fees are operating like they would in a traditional marketplace with competition. The bill would change the law so that when banks let the card networks fix the fees on their behalf, they can't charge fees on sales tax and tips, and they have to limit applicable charges for nonprofit giving. The bill reins in the price-fixing behavior that the two payment networks engage in and has been crafted thoughtfully to withstand judicial scrutiny. I just want to state, as a Democrat, I think these fees are regressive. I think fees being paid on sales tax and tips is a regressive thing. And we need to do better to protect Colorado's workers, Colorado's small businesses, and to stop inflation from getting worse by passing House Bill 1282.
Representative Brooks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You know, this is one of those that I believe that everybody knows, well. because the conversations have been robust outside of this chamber. So I don't probably need to spend a whole lot of time talking about it because you already have heard plenty about it. But this is not, never has this been meant to kick any particular industry in the shins. This is simply to ensure that we're protecting the most vulnerable in our community, which are the small businesses. They could be salons, they could be gas stations, they could be restaurants. We have heard from many, many small businesses that this would benefit directly, and as such, I believe that that is something that I know I was sent here for. I believe that we all have small businesses in our community that we can support, and thus I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1282? Representative Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, he's not in the room, but I would like to thank the good representative from Parker for being absent the day this was heard in finance and allowing me to have the joy of listening to witnesses on both sides of this. I really do appreciate the bill sponsors bringing the bill. I absolutely believe that it is addressing a real concern in our business communities, especially with our small and tipped wage servicers. But I did have a few concerns. It, to me, represents an interference in private contracts, and it shifts the burdens from some businesses to other businesses to try to fix something that probably is better addressed in this building by trying to bring down regulation and costs on all businesses. Again, I absolutely believe that we should be doing something to help our small businesses. We have been doing some things that do help and should continue to do that. But I think in this case, the bill kind of selects some winners and losers and really shifts again the burden of trying to fix something onto other businesses for things that we're breaking in this building. But again, I do appreciate the...
Representative Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleague, in his very fair comments. It is a difficult position. There are some kind of in the middle position here. You kind of have to choose, what is it that we're trying to do? Are we trying to protect the small businesses in our community? And my colleague actually brought up a very good point about the regulation. This is something that we're having to fight here in Colorado, is the continued regulation, the over-regulation, 44% of which is duplicative, which puts us at 6th in the top 10 scale of the most regulated states in the nation. So that's something that we really need to try to find a relief valve for. We need to find a way to provide relief for small businesses. This bill is being brought forward in roughly 24 states, and I would venture to guess that those other states are not nearly as regulated as we are, which puts even more of an emphasis on us trying to find a solution here. So again, I do appreciate those comments. I do understand the difficulty here, but at the end of the day, I do believe that we're doing a good thing for small business, and again, ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1282. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1282 is passed. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 68.
Senate Bill 68 by Senators Snyder and Lundin, also Representatives Puglisi and Pascal, concerning a municipality-owned utilities voluntary election to participate in the Unclaimed Utility Deposits Program.
Representative Puglisi, or I'm sorry, Minority Leader Puglisi. My apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 68 and the Energy and Environment Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just made a couple of amendments to clarify that the unclaimed utility account deposit statute does not apply to municipal utilities and harmonizes it with state constitution. We want to make sure statute and constitution align, and I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on the Energy and Environment Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Pascal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. So this bill was brought to us by our local municipal utilities, Colorado Springs Utilities. It's got the vast majority of all the the legislators from Colorado Springs area, El Paso County on board. What this does is it allows the municipal utilities, to have their own program where they put their unclaimed deposits along with other monies into a pool, and they have their own program. CSU has a program called COPE where they help support folks that are having difficulty paying their utility bills. This applies on all the utilities that CSU has, water, electric, and gas. It does not preclude somebody from using the LEAP program, which is statewide. It's supplementary to that. This affords local control for our utility, which I am a big fan.
Minority Leader Puglisi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to my co-prime on this. And so basically this just, as we said, aligns current practice with the unclaimed account deposits with the Colorado Constitution. We want statute and Constitution to align, and we ask for a yes vote on the bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 68. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 68 passes. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Shebel, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report as under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1175 as amended, 1204 as amended, 1208 as amended, 1279 as amended, and 1282 passed on second reading, order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 68 as amended, passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1224 laid over until March 19th, 2025.
Representative Wilford. Members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The motion before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Hartsook and Story are excused with a $6 fine. Yeah. Oh. Please close the machine. With 41 aye, 19 no, and 5 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Members, we did do announcements earlier. Unless there are any more, I don't see any. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Wednesday, March 19th, 2025.
The balance of the calendar will be laid over until tomorrow. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until later today.
The House will stand in recess until later today.